Commander Velcor stood on the bridge of the Dawn of Understanding and stared at the screen before him. The message was old, very old. It had been traveling through space for 800 years, moving at the speed of light from a distant corner of the galaxy. His people, the Ashanti, had finally decoded it completely after decades of work. The transmission showed images of strange creatures. They walked on two legs and had no scales or fur. Their skin was smooth and came in different shades of brown and pink. They had hair on their heads, but not much anywhere else. The aliens on the bridge leaned forward, watching with fascination. "Play the audio again," Velcor said. The speakers crackled to life. Sounds filled the bridge. Sounds unlike anything most of the crew had ever heard. There was speaking, words in languages no one could understand yet. But there was also something else. Music. The creatures were singing, and the melody was strangely beautiful. Some of the crew members felt their hearts move in ways they could not explain. Dr. Elin, a scientist from the Primian race, adjusted her viewing device. She was small and thin with large eyes that could see more colors than most species. "Commander, I have analyzed the mathematical sequences in the transmission. These beings are asking for contact. They want to meet others in the universe. How long ago did they send this?" asked Lieutenant Cross, the security officer. He was tall and covered in thick gray skin that could stop most weapons. "According to our calculations, they sent this message approximately 830 years ago," Alan replied. "The signal originated from a star system in the outer arm of the galaxy. The locals there call it different names, but our charts designate it as System 7821. Velcor felt excitement building in his chest. The Galactic Council, the alliance of 17 different alien species, had been exploring space for thousands of years. They had found ruins of dead civilizations and primitive life on many worlds, but finding a species that was trying to reach out, trying to make contact, was rare and precious. "Set course for System 7821, Velcor ordered. "Send a message back to the Council. Tell them we are making first contact with a new species." The crew worked quickly. They prepared translation programs and studied the images from the transmission. The creatures seemed to live on a planet with blue oceans and green land masses. They had built cities and machines. Some images showed them leaving their planet in small ships reaching for their moon. The journey took 6 months even with the fastest drives the Council had. During that time, Velcor and his crew studied everything they could about the transmission. They learned that the creatures called themselves humans. They came from a planet they named Earth. The team practiced first contact protocols. They prepared gifts of art and science from the 17 Council species. They rehearsed greetings in different styles, knowing that first impressions mattered greatly. Everyone on board felt the weight of history. This could be the beginning of a new friendship between civilizations. As they approached the human star system, the excitement grew stronger. The ship's sensors began scanning ahead, searching for signs of the human civilization. They found the planets quickly enough. There was a large red planet that matched descriptions from the transmission. There was a small blue and green world orbiting at just the right distance from the star, but something was wrong. Velcor noticed it first. The communications officer was frowning at her screen, tapping buttons with increasing concern. "Commander," she said slowly, "I am not detecting any active transmissions from the planet. No radio signals, no satellite communications, nothing." "Perhaps they use different technology now," suggested Elin hopefully. 800 years is a long time. They might have advanced beyond radio waves. They moved closer. The sensors picked up more details. There were structures on the planet, huge structures that covered vast areas, cities that stretched for hundreds of miles, satellites in orbit, though none of them were sending signals. As they came within visual range, Velcor ordered the main screen to show them Earth. The bridge fell silent. The planet was beautiful. Blue oceans covered most of its surface. White clouds swirled in patterns. Green and brown land masses held forests and deserts and mountains. But the cities, those massive cities visible even from space, were dark. No lights shined from them. No ships moved in orbit. "Life signs?" Velcor asked quietly. The sensor officer worked his controls for a long moment. "Scanning now, Commander. I am detecting plant life across most of the land masses. Animal life as well, smaller creatures. But I'm not finding any concentrations of the life forms from the transmission. No humans." The word hung in the air like a heavy weight. Velcor felt something cold settle in his stomach. They had traveled so far. They had hoped for so much. The crew stared at the silent planet below them. "Scan the other planets in the system," Velcor ordered. Perhaps they moved to their moon or to the red planet. The scans came back negative. The small moon had structures on it, domed buildings and landing pads, but they were as dark and silent as Earth. The red planet showed signs of attempted settlements, but they too were abandoned. "Commander," Elin said softly, "we need to go down there. We need to see what happened." Velcor nodded. He had been thinking the same thing. "Prepare 3 landing teams. We will search the largest cities for clues. I want answers." Where did the humans go? The crew moved to obey. As Velcor watched Earth slowly rotate beneath them, he wondered what they would find in those silent cities. Had the humans destroyed themselves in a war? Had a plague killed them all? Had some disaster wiped them out before they could meet their neighbors among the stars? The Dawn of Understanding entered orbit around Earth, a ship full of aliens who had come to say hello to humanity. But humanity was not there to answer. The cities stood empty. The satellites drifted silent. And somewhere in the vast archives of human history that waited in the darkness below, the truth waited to be discovered. Velcor took a deep breath and prepared to lead his people down to the surface. Whatever they found, it would change everything. The Council had reached out across the stars to touch the hand of a new friend. But they had arrived too late. Humanity was already gone. The landing shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere with a quiet hum. Dr. Elin pressed her face close to the window, watching as clouds parted to reveal the city below. She had seen many alien cities in her career, but nothing had prepared her for this sight. The buildings rose impossibly high into the sky, towers of glass and metal and strange materials that her scanner could not immediately identify. They stretched upward like fingers reaching for the stars, some of them easily 100 floors tall. The city covered an enormous area, spreading out in all directions as far as she could see. "This was called New York," said Lieutenant Cross, checking his datapad. According to the old transmissions, this was one of their major population centers. Millions of humans lived here. The shuttle set down in the middle of a wide street between the towers. As the engines powered down, the team gathered their equipment. Velcor had ordered them to document everything carefully. They wore recording devices that would capture every moment of their exploration. The door opened and Earth's air rushed in. Elin took a careful breath through her filter. The air was clean, rich in oxygen with a slight smell of growing things. She stepped out onto the street and looked around in wonder. The street was cracked but still intact. Vehicles of various sizes sat abandoned along the sides, their metal bodies showing signs of age. Vines grew up the sides of buildings. Trees pushed through the pavement in places, their roots breaking the artificial stone. Nature was slowly reclaiming the city, but the human structures still stood strong. "Spread out," ordered Cross. "Stay in pairs. Document everything. If you find anything important, call it in immediately." Elin partnered with a young Ashanti researcher named Joran. Together, they approached the nearest building. The doors were made of glass, now covered in dirt and plant growth. Elin pushed gently and the door swung open easily. Inside, the building was dark. Their lights clicked on, cutting through the shadows. They found themselves in what appeared to be a living space. Furniture designed for human bodies filled the rooms. Tables and chairs. Soft places for sitting or sleeping. Objects that must have been important to the humans who lived here covered every surface. "Look at this," Joran said, pointing to a wall. Elin moved closer. Images were mounted on the wall in frames. Photographs, her database told her. Humans smiling at the camera. Adults and children together. Families. These images showed happy moments, times the humans wanted to remember. They moved through room after room. Each one told a story. A kitchen with devices for preparing food. A bathroom with running water systems still intact. A bedroom with clothes still hanging in a closet. Children's toys scattered on a floor, waiting for small hands that would never return. They left everything. Elin whispered, "Why would they leave everything?" They continued exploring and soon found other buildings. An office tower with thousands of workspaces, computers sitting dark on desks. A shopping center with stores full of goods. A school with books and teaching materials carefully arranged in classrooms. Everywhere they looked, they found the same pattern. The humans had left, but they had left their world intact. Cross called over the radio. "Dr. Elin, you need to see this. I found something big." They followed his directions to a massive building with columns at its entrance. Words were carved into the stone above the doors, words in the human language that their translators were beginning to understand. "Public library?" Inside, Aelin gasped. The space was enormous, and every wall was covered with shelves. The shelves held books, thousands upon thousands of books. Physical objects made from pressed plant material with words printed on them. Information storage that did not need electricity or computers. "How many?" she asked, cross-checked his scanner. "My device estimates over 2 million individual books in this building alone. And this is just one library. The city has dozens of them." Aelin pulled a book from a shelf carefully. The pages were yellowed but still readable. It was a story, fiction about humans going on an adventure. She placed it back gently and pulled another. This one was about science, explaining how to build machines. Another about history. Another about art. "They documented everything," she said in awe. "Every piece of knowledge they had, they wrote down and saved." "Not just wrote down," said Joran, who had been exploring deeper into the building. "Come look at this." He led them to a sealed room in the back of the library. The door was locked, but Cross managed to open it without causing damage. Inside, they found computer systems that still hummed with power. Lights blinked on screens, showing that somehow, after all these years, these machines still worked. Aelin approached a terminal carefully. Her fingers touched the interface, and the screen came to life. Text appeared in the human language, but their translation software could now read it well enough. "Welcome to the New York Public Library Archive System. All materials are available for educational purposes." She navigated through the menus, her heart's beating faster with each discovery. The archive contained scanned copies of every book in the building. But more than that, it connected to other archives, other libraries, museums, universities. The entire human knowledge base seemed to be linked together in this network. "They built this to last," Cross observed, examining the power system. "These energy cells are unlike anything I have seen. They should continue functioning for thousands of years." Aelin kept searching through the archives. She found history files and opened them. Images and text filled the screen, telling the story of humanity. Their early days living in caves, the development of agriculture, the rise of civilizations, wars and peace treaties, scientific discoveries, the space age when they first left their planet. Then she found something that made her freeze, a file dated 200 years ago. It was marked as important with priority flags. She opened it and began to read. The file was a message from the human government. It explained a decision that had been made after decades of debate. Humanity had developed a new type of space travel, something far beyond what their early transmissions had shown. They called it transdimensional slip technology. It allowed them to move not just through space, but beyond it, into other layers of reality. With this technology, they had decided to leave Earth, not because they had to, not because of war or disaster or danger. They were leaving because staying meant stopping. Humanity wanted to explore, to see what lay beyond the stars, to discover things that no one had ever seen. The message explained that they would leave Earth intact. They would preserve their cities, their art, their history. They wanted other species to find Earth and learn from it. They wanted to give the gift of human knowledge to whoever came after them. "Velcor," Aelin said into her radio, her voice shaking. "You need to hear this. Humanity did not die. They did not destroy themselves. They left. They chose to leave." As the words left her mouth, Aelin felt a strange mix of emotions. Sadness that the humans were gone, wonder at what they had achieved, and a deep respect for a species that had reached for something greater than just survival. Around her in the silent library, millions of books waited patiently, the knowledge of an entire species, carefully preserved and freely offered to whoever might find it. Humanity had left Earth behind, but they had made sure their story would never be forgotten. Outside, the sun was setting over the empty city. The towers cast long shadows across the streets where humans once walked, and in orbit above, the dawn of understanding continued its scans, finding more and more evidence of a species that had touched the stars and then moved beyond them. Over the next several weeks, teams from the dawn of understanding spread across Earth. They visited cities on every continent. Tokyo with its efficient design, London with its ancient and modern buildings mixed together, Cairo near the Great Pyramids, Mumbai with its colorful markets frozen in time. Each city told the same story. Humanity had left, and they had left everything behind. Commander Velcor walked through what had been called Washington. The city was built with wide streets and important buildings made of white stone. His team had found what appeared to be museums and government offices. In one building, they discovered rooms full of artifacts from human history, tools from their earliest days, weapons from their many wars, art from every culture and time period. But it was in a specific building that Velcor found something that changed his understanding completely. The structure was large and made of stone that had weathered many years, but still stood strong. Inside, the walls were covered with writing. The same message repeated in 100 different human languages, with mathematical notation added so that any species could translate it. Velcor stood before the wall and read the translation on his datapad. The message was a greeting, an explanation, and a farewell, all at once. It spoke of humanity's 200,000 years on Earth. It talked about their struggles and their dreams. It explained why they were leaving. "We reached for the stars not to conquer, but to explore," the message said. "We leave not in defeat, but in hope." The words touched something deep in Velcor's heart. He had met many species in his years of service. Some were warriors, some were merchants, some were scholars. But he had never encountered a species that had simply decided to leave their entire world behind to see what was beyond the horizon. Dr. Elin called him from another location. "Commander, you need to come to the Smithsonian Institution. We found something extraordinary." Velcor took a shuttle to her location. The building was massive, filled with exhibition halls that displayed everything from human history to natural science. But Elin was not interested in the exhibitions. She had found something else. In a secure room deep in the building, they discovered what could only be called a gift: detailed plans and instructions for technology. Not the advanced technology that had let humans leave. That was absent from the records, perhaps kept secret or perhaps simply beyond explanation. But the foundations were all there. Clean energy systems that could power cities without pollution, medical treatments for diseases that plagued many species, agricultural techniques for growing food efficiently, water purification systems, basic computing principles, everything a developing civilization would need to advance without destroying itself. "They left us a guide," Elin said, her voice full of wonder. "They knew that someday someone would find Earth. They wanted to help whoever came after them." Velcor examined the plans carefully. The technology was elegant and efficient. More importantly, it was explained in clear terms with diagrams and examples. The humans had spent time making sure these instructions could be understood and used. "This is unprecedented," Velcor said. "No species in Council history has ever done something like this. When civilizations fall, their knowledge usually dies with them. But humanity did not fall. They chose to leave, and they chose to leave their knowledge behind as a gift." Lieutenant Cross arrived with more news. "Commander, we found something in Antarctica, a facility beneath the ice." They traveled to the frozen continent at Earth's South Pole. The facility was buried deep under ice that was thousands of years old. It had taken careful scanning to detect it. When they finally reached it, they found something that left the entire team speechless. The facility was enormous, stretching for miles under the ice. It was a biological archive, a storage system for the genetic information of every plant and animal that had lived on Earth. Samples were preserved in special containers, kept at perfect temperatures by systems that still functioned flawlessly after 200 years. "There are millions of species here," said a Primian biologist examining the records. "Every form of life that humanity knew about, saved and protected. Trees and flowers, insects and fish, birds and mammals, everything." Velcor walked through the cool halls of the facility, looking at the rows of storage containers. Each one was labeled carefully with scientific names and descriptions. Humans had gone to enormous effort to save their world's biological heritage, even knowing they might never return. "They loved their planet," Elin observed quietly. "They left it, but they loved it." In another part of the facility, they found something that troubled them. A secure vault, locked behind layers of encryption that their best computers could not break quickly. A note was attached to the vault's entrance, written in clear language. The note explained that the vault contained plans for weapons, terrible weapons that could destroy planets and stars, weapons that could unravel matter itself at the atomic level. Humanity had developed these weapons during their violent history, but they had chosen not to use them. They had chosen not to take them when they left. The note continued, and Velcor read it carefully. We created these in our fear and our rage. We chose not to use them. We hope you will choose never to build them. But if you face extinction, if annihilation comes for you as it nearly came for us, the knowledge is here. May you never need it. They nearly destroyed themselves, Cross said, reading over Velcor's shoulder. These weapons, they came close to using them, but they did not, Velcor replied. That is what matters. They stepped back from the edge. They chose a different path. Over the following days, the teams compiled their findings. Every major city on Earth had a central archive building, protected and powered to last for thousands of years. Every archive contained the complete history of humanity, books and music and art and science, everything humans had created, saved, and protected. The pattern became clear. Humanity had spent 200 years preparing to leave. They had built enormous ships, generation vessels that could support entire populations for centuries. They had developed technology that let them slip beyond normal space into dimensions that the Galactic Council did not even know existed. And then, in the year 2647, they had left. Every human had boarded the ships. They had said goodbye to Earth, the world that had made them. And they had sailed away into the unknown, driven by a desire to explore that was deeper than fear and stronger than comfort. Where did they go? Asked Joran, staring up at the stars one evening. Beyond, Elin answered simply. Beyond our space, beyond our understanding. They found a way to go farther than anyone thought possible, and they took it. Velcor stood with them, looking up at the same stars. He thought about the message on the wall in Washington. He thought about the libraries full of books and the archives full of knowledge. He thought about the biological samples sleeping under the ice and the terrible weapons locked away in hope they would never be needed. Humanity had left Earth as a monument, a library, a gift, and a warning. They had shown what a species could achieve. They had shown the mistakes that could be made and the wisdom to step back from destruction. They had shown that the greatest adventure was not conquering others, but discovering what lay beyond the next horizon. We came too late, Velcor said quietly. We came to meet them, and they are already gone. But we found their story, Elin replied, and that might be an even greater gift. Every species in the Council will learn about humanity now. We will study their history. We will learn from their mistakes and their achievements. In a way, humanity will touch every civilization in the galaxy, even though they are no longer here. Velcor nodded slowly. She was right. Humanity might be gone, but their legacy would spread across the stars through the species they had never met. It was not the first contact anyone had hoped for, but perhaps it was something more important. A lesson, an inspiration, a reminder that intelligence could choose wisdom over destruction and exploration over stagnation. Tomorrow they would present their findings to the Galactic Council. The debate would begin about what to do with Earth. But tonight, Velcor stood under Earth's stars and thought about the humans out there somewhere, sailing through impossible spaces, chasing dreams that others could not even imagine. The council chamber on the Galactic Council Central Station was filled with representatives from all 17 member species. Commander Velcor stood at the center, presenting his findings to the assembled leaders. Holographic displays showed images of Earth, the empty cities, the archives, the biological facility in Antarctica. Ambassador Thorin of the Diplomatic Corps listened carefully. He was an old member of the Zenthari species, tall and thin with silver skin that reflected light. He had overseen first contact situations dozens of times in his long career. But never anything like this. Let me understand correctly, Thorin said when Velcor finished. You found an entire planet perfectly preserved with no inhabitants. And this species, humanity, they left voluntarily. They simply decided to leave their world and explore beyond known space. That is correct, Ambassador, Velcor replied. Based on their records, they spent 200 years preparing. They built ships and developed technology far beyond our current understanding. Then they departed, every last one of them. A Kronar representative spoke up. The Kronar were a warrior species, practical and direct. This planet has resources, good air, good water, good land. Several of our species could settle there. Why are we having this discussion? The planet is empty. We should use it. Murmurs of agreement came from some parts of the chamber. Earth was valuable. Many species in the council faced population pressures. New worlds were always needed, but Dr. Elin stepped forward. She had been given permission to address the council, something rarely granted to someone of her rank. With respect, council members, Earth is not simply an empty planet. It is a library. It is a museum. It is a gift that humanity left for whoever would find it. She activated a new set of displays. Images of the archives appeared, showing the vast collections of human knowledge. Humanity saved everything. Every book they wrote, every song they sang, every scientific discovery they made. They left detailed instructions for technology that could help any developing species. They preserved the genetic code of every living thing on their planet. This is not just a planet. This is the cultural heritage of an entire civilization. A Primian counselor nodded thoughtfully. The Primians valued knowledge above all else. Dr. Elin makes a strong point. The scientific value of these archives is immeasurable. We could learn much from studying humanity's development, but we could also learn from their planet while settling it, argued a Hurathi representative. The Hurathi were traders and economists. We can preserve the important buildings and archives while using the land for agriculture and housing. Both goals can be achieved. The debate grew heated. Some council members saw Earth as a resource. Others saw it as a historical treasure. The arguments went back and forth for hours. Lieutenant Cross was given a chance to speak. There is another consideration, he said, his deep voice carrying across the chamber. Humanity's technology. They achieved something we have not. They found a way to travel beyond our understanding of space. What if they return? What if this departure was not permanent? The chamber fell silent at that. It was a point no one had considered deeply. If humanity returns and finds their homeworld colonized by other species, Cross continued, what would their reaction be? Would they see us as caretakers or invaders? Do we want to risk first contact with a potentially very advanced species under such circumstances? Ambassador Thorin stroked his chin thoughtfully. A valid concern. We know nothing about humanity's current capabilities or intentions. We only know they were capable of leaving their planet completely, and doing so in an organized manner. That suggests significant technological and social sophistication. A Vexian counselor, representing one of the council's most advanced species, spoke carefully. I have reviewed the human archives personally. Their rate of technological advancement was extraordinary. In just 10,000 years, they went from primitive agriculture to space travel. In another 600 years, they developed trans-dimensional technology. If they have continued advancing, they could be far beyond our level now. Are you suggesting we should fear them? Asked the Kronar representative. I am suggesting we should respect them, the Vexian replied, and part of that respect means honoring what they left behind. They could have taken everything with them or destroyed it. Instead, they preserved it. That tells us something about their values. Velcor watched the debate continue. He had his own opinion, but as the expedition commander, he had to remain somewhat neutral. Still, he found himself agreeing more with those who wanted to preserve Earth. Dr. Elin presented more evidence. She showed the message humanity had left carved in 100 languages. She played recordings of human music which moved several council members to tears. She explained the biological archive and how it showed humanity's care for their planet's life. They left because they wanted to grow, Elin said passionately. They wanted to explore, but they did not abandon their home. They honored it by preserving it. If we truly want to honor humanity, we should do the same. The Kronar representative was not convinced. Pretty words, but my people need space to expand. Earth could support billions. Are we to deny real, living people a home because of sentiment for a species that is gone? They are not gone, Elin shot back. They are somewhere out there exploring, and they may return someday. How will we explain that we took what they left behind? If they wanted their planet protected, they should have stayed to protect it, the Kronar replied. Ambassador Thorin raised his hand for silence. The chamber quieted. I believe we need to consider a compromise. But first I want to hear Commander Velcor's recommendation. He led this expedition. He walked on Earth, What does he think we should do? All eyes turned to Velcor. He had known this moment would come. He had prepared his words carefully. Ambassador, council members, Velcor began. I have explored many worlds in my career. I have seen the ruins of civilizations that destroyed themselves. I have seen primitive species struggling to survive. I have seen empty planets where life never developed. But I have never seen anything like Earth. He paused, gathering his thoughts. Humanity left us a gift. Not just knowledge or technology, but an example. They showed us that a species can face its own darkness and choose light. They nearly destroyed themselves with weapons. They nearly ruined their planet with pollution. But they stopped. They changed. They chose a better path. They also showed us something else, Velcor continued. They showed us that the greatest civilizations are not the ones that conquer the most territory or gather the most resources. The greatest civilizations are the ones that never stop exploring, never stop learning, never stop growing. Humanity could have stayed on Earth. They were comfortable. They were safe, but they wanted more. They wanted to see what was beyond the horizon. The chamber was silent now, everyone listening. I recommend that Earth be declared a protected heritage site, Velcor said firmly. The first of its kind in council space. No colonization, no resource extraction, only research conducted with care and respect. The archives should be copied and shared with every council species. Let all of us learn from humanity's journey. And most importantly, Velcor added, we should leave a beacon in orbit, a message broadcasting into deep space saying, humanity, if you return, know that your home is safe. The Galactic Council has kept watch. Come talk to us. We want to meet you. Ambassador Thorin nodded slowly, a wise recommendation. But the council must vote. The debate continued for 3 more days. Arguments were made on all sides. The economists wanted to use Earth's resources. The scientists wanted to study it. The military worried about unknown threats. The philosophers spoke of ethics and responsibility. Finally, the vote was called. Each species cast their decision. The chamber fell silent as the votes were counted. Velcor held his breath. The announcement came. 12 species voted for protection. 5 voted for colonization. Earth would be preserved. The Kronar representative stood angrily. This is foolish. We waste a valuable world for sentiment, but Ambassador Thorin replied calmly. Perhaps. Or perhaps we make an investment in the future. Humanity may return someday. When they do, they will find that someone cared about what they left behind. That seems like a good foundation for friendship. Velcor felt relief wash over him. Earth would be protected. Humanity's legacy would be preserved. And if humans ever returned from their journey beyond the stars, they would find their home waiting for them, watched over by the species they had never met but who had learned from their example. The council had reached out too late to meet humanity on Earth. But perhaps, in protecting what humanity had left behind, they had taken the first step toward a meeting that would happen someday, somewhere among the infinite stars. 50 years passed. Commander Velcor was no longer a commander. He had retired decades ago and returned to his homeworld, a quiet planet in the Ashanti system. His scales had turned gray with age. His movements were slower, but his mind remained sharp, filled with memories of his long career exploring the galaxy. He spent his days teaching at a university, sharing his experiences with young Ashanti who dreamed of the stars. His students loved hearing about Earth, about the empty cities and the vast archives. The story of humanity had spread across the Galactic Council, inspiring scientists and philosophers and dreamers of every species. Earth remained protected. A small station had been built in orbit, where researchers could stay while studying the planet. Teams rotated through, carefully exploring the human cities, digitizing books, analyzing technology. The biological archive in Antarctica had been opened fully, and council scientists were amazed by the diversity of life that had existed on Earth. The beacon Velcor had suggested was placed in high orbit. It broadcast continuously in every direction, a simple message in mathematical and scientific notation that any spacefaring species would understand. Humanity, your home is safe. We are waiting to meet you. For 50 years the beacon broadcast. No answer came. Some began to think that humanity would never return. Perhaps they had gone so far that return was impossible. Perhaps they had found something out there and decided to stay. Perhaps they had met their end in the vast unknown. Velcor did not believe that. Sometimes late at night he would look up at the stars and think about humans somewhere out there, exploring impossible spaces. He liked to imagine their ships sailing between dimensions, their crews seeing wonders that no one else could even imagine. One evening, Velcor sat in his small home, reading a human book that had been translated into his language. It was a story about exploration, about a ship's crew seeking new worlds. The humans had written so many stories like this. They had dreamed about the stars long before they could reach them. His communicator chirped. He almost ignored it. He was old and tired, and important messages rarely came to retired commanders. But something made him answer. The face on the screen was Admiral Corinne, current head of the Council's exploratory fleet. She was a Vexian, with blue crystalline skin and large eyes that showed every emotion. Right now, those eyes were wide with something Velcor could not quite identify. Excitement? Fear? Wonder? Commander Velcor, she said, and her voice shook slightly. I apologize for contacting you so late. But you need to see this. You need to see this right now. What is it? Velcor asked, sitting up straighter. 3 hours ago, we received a response to the beacon at Earth. Commander, humanity answered. Velcor felt his hearts begin to race. His hands trembled as he reached for the controls. Show me, please, show me. The screen changed. A new image appeared. It showed a human woman, middle-aged with gray streaking through her dark hair. She wore a uniform of deep blue with insignia that meant nothing to Velcor but spoke of rank and authority. Behind her, through a large window, stars moved in patterns that should not be possible. They swirled in colors that Velcor had never seen. Space itself seemed to bend and fold in ways that hurt to look at. The woman's face was serious but kind. She looked tired, the kind of tired that came from years of hard work and long journeys, but her eyes held warmth and something else. Hope. Greetings to the Galactic Council, she began, and her voice was clear and strong. This is Captain Julie Carter of the Wayward Dream, one of humanity's far-ranging vessels. We received your beacon, and I want you to know we remember Earth. We remember home, and we thank you more than words can express for protecting it. She paused, and a slight smile touched her lips. It transformed her face, making her look younger. We left Earth because we had to, not out of fear or desperation, but because staying would have meant stopping. Humanity needed to see what lay beyond. Not just beyond our solar system, but beyond space itself. What we found, well, that is a long story. One we would be honored to share with you. We are not ready to return home, Julie Carter continued. Not yet. We have much farther to go, so much more to discover, but knowing that Earth is safe, that our history is preserved, that someone out there cares about a species they never met, that means everything to us. Velcor realized tears were running down his face. In all his years, he had never cried like this. But hearing this human voice, seeing proof that humanity still existed out there, it was overwhelming. We are few now, Captain Carter said, scattered across gulfs that cannot be measured in light years. The journey has been hard. We have lost ships. We have lost friends. But we endure. We grow, we learn, and perhaps one day when we have seen all there is to see, we will come home. Until then, thank you for being the guardians of our cradle. She straightened, her expression becoming more formal. If you wish to share in the knowledge we have gained, we can arrange a data exchange. Humanity has always believed that knowledge should be freely given. We learned much from what you left on your beacon. The fact that 17 different species can work together in peace, that gives us hope for the future of all intelligent life. Live well, friends we have not yet met, Captain Carter finished. May your journeys be filled with wonder. This is the Wayward Dream signing off. The transmission ended. Velcor sat in silence, staring at the blank screen. Admiral Karen's face appeared again. Commander, she said softly, we wanted you to be one of the first to know. You found Earth. You argued for its protection. You were right. Velcor tried to speak but had to clear his throat several times. Have you replied? Not yet. We are preparing a response. The Council is meeting an emergency session. Everyone wants to know what happens next. What happens next, Velcor repeated. He thought about it for a moment. We make friends. Real friends. Not across a conference table or through formal treaties. We share stories. We learn from each other. We show humanity that they were right to trust us with their home. I will pass that along, Corinne said with a smile. The Council wants to know if you would be willing to help compose the response message. You know Earth better than anyone else in the Council. I would be honored. Velcor replied. Over the next several days, Velcor worked with council diplomats to create a response. They wanted it to be perfect. Warm but not desperate. Friendly but respectful, showing that the council understood the magnitude of what humanity had achieved, while also offering genuine friendship. The message was sent. It explained how the council had found Earth. It described the care taken to preserve humanity's legacy. It spoke of the inspiration that humanity's story had provided to countless beings across the galaxy. And it ended with an invitation. When humanity was ready, whether in 10 years or 10,000 years, they would be welcomed not as strangers but as friends. More messages were exchanged over the following months. Slow conversations across impossible distances. Captain Carter explained that humanity's ships moved through dimensions the Council did not know existed. They had found worlds beyond imagining. Some ships had settled in places where reality worked differently. Others continued exploring, always pushing farther. The data exchanges began. Humanity shared discoveries about physics and mathematics that revolutionized Council science. The Council shared their history, the stories of 17 species learning to work together. Both sides learned. Both sides grew. Velcor lived to see the first real-time communication established between the Council and one of humanity's nearest vessels. It took combined effort and new technology based on human discoveries. But finally, they could talk without months of delay. He was very old by then, barely able to leave his bed. But he insisted on being present when the communication link opened. The young Ashanti who had been his student years ago, now a ship captain herself, set up the display so he could see. The face that appeared was young, a human man named Peter Harris, who served as a communications officer on humanity's vessel Endless Horizon. He smiled warmly when he saw Velcor. "Commander Velcor," Peter said, "Captain Carter told me about you. You were the one who found Earth, the one who argued to protect it. On behalf of all of humanity, thank you. You kept faith with people you never met. That means more than you can know." Velcor smiled weakly. "I only did what was right. Your people left such a beautiful legacy. It deserved to be honored." "We are making plans," Peter continued. "Not to return permanently, not yet. But some of our ships will visit Earth in the next few years. We want to see home again. We want to walk in those cities and remember where we came from. And we want to meet you. Meet the Council species. Finally have that first contact that should have happened centuries ago." "I may not live to see it," Velcor said honestly. "Then we will honor your memory," Peter replied. "The human who found us. The friend who kept our home safe. Your name will be remembered by humanity for as long as we exist." Velcor closed his eyes, feeling peace settle over him. The Council had reached out to humanity 800 years too late. They had missed the chance to meet humans on Earth, to shake hands and exchange greetings on humanity's homeworld. But perhaps they had not been too late after all. Perhaps they had reached out at exactly the right time. They had found Earth empty and chosen to protect it.